Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Aquarium Online Academy. My name is Lourdes, and I'm joined here in the studio by my friend Tiffany. And today we're going to explore a really awesome habitat, and it's actually right behind me. So I'm going to step aside, and what we're going to do is we're going to make some observations. So I want us to notice what colors we see and what shapes we might see. All right? Now, if you want to join live, you can text us at 562-286-1838. It is currently September 2nd at 10 a.m. Now, if you're watching this outside of that time, don't worry, you can still email your questions to us at live@lbaop.org. We would still love to hear your questions and get back to you about anything you might have noticed that we didn't even mention. All right? Fantastic. So I'm going to step to the side and we're going to take a few minutes to kind of notice this awesome habitat right behind me. All right. So let's take a few moments. Right off the bat, I'm seeing a lot of different colors. I'm seeing a lot of vibrant colors too. I see some fish. And I'm kind of seeing some interesting things on the rocks. Now, what did you notice? Did you see some pinks and some blues? Maybe even some greens. I know there's like a green right behind my head, right here. Right, and we also have some really interesting animals right over here. Do you see my really colorful friend right over here? Swimming right behind me. Well, what is this habitat? Do you know what it is? Say it out loud for me. Yeah, that's right. A coral reef. So, right behind me, all these really colorful structures are corals. So, we're going to actually talk a little bit about corals and all the animals that live in here, just like all these animals that are swimming right behind me. So, we see a few different fish, right? What do we notice about those fish? Are they gray and dull colors? Maybe they're hard to see a little bit. I know there's one that's kind of blending in really well back there. Or are we seeing more brighter colors? Yeah, we're seeing bright colors. And that's because coral reefs tend to live or tend to exist in more tropical climates. So think warmer waters. Now, that's for this specific coral reef right behind me. There are still coral reefs in colder waters, but they might not look like this, right? Now, I know we have a lot of fish behind me swimming around, but I actually want to focus on these colorful structures right behind me, the pinks and the blues, right? That is coral. Now, what is coral? Do you know? Is it an animal? Or maybe it's a plant? Or a rock? Hmm, I wonder. What do you think? Look at this right behind me. So, while corals might look like rocks and plants, they're actually animals. And we're getting a look at that animal right here. These are called zooxanthellae. Can we all say that? Zooxanthellae. I know it's a big word, a little complicated, but that's the animal that we're looking at right here. Perfect. There's that spelling. Zooxanthellae. Very long, very complicated. But it's a good word to know because when we're talking about corals and them being animals, that is what we're talking about. We're talking about the zooxanthellae that we're looking at. Now, I'm going to step to the side and maybe we've seen animals that look similar to this. Can you think of any other animal in the ocean that might look something like this? That might have these almost tentacle-like structures on their body. Can you guess? Let's see if we can get an image of it. I'm going to step to the side. Now, the fun thing about corals is that they are in the phylum of Cnidaria, and there's two other animals that look very similar to them. Well, one animal that looks very similar to them, one that used to look very similar to them when they're little babies. And let's see if we could get one of those animals up here. Perfect. Now, I know you can see my sea star friend, but we're not going to talk about that one right here. We're going to actually talk about these friends right here with these flowing tentacles. Do you know what these are? Anemones. Exactly. So corals, anemones, and not shown here, our friends, the sea jellies, are all part of this same phylum. Perfect. We have some moon jellies right here. Did you know they were all related? Yeah. So the funny thing about them is their phylum specifically, Cnidaria, is the meaning behind it is stinging tentacles. Now we know jellies sting, and you might have not known, but anemones also sting, but we just don't feel it for the most part when we touch our anemones here at the aquarium, right? And our corals also have that same ability. But depending on the coral, we probably wouldn't even feel it at all because, again, of those tiny, tiny little animals. So, what I want us to do is I'm going to come over here to my dot cam and we're going to actually talk about that coral structure. All right. So, what do you notice here? Do you see any animals on here? No, right? So this kind of looks a bit more like a rock, and what we're looking at is kind of that coral skeleton. But you'll notice, I'm going to bring it a little closer to you. You'll notice that there's a lot of these grooves and all that, because the funny thing about corals is that it's like a bunch of different animals living together. I have another one right over here so we can see a different type of structure. And you might be able to see some tiny, tiny little holes, right? I have some tiny little holes right here. And in those holes, in those grooves, that's where our animals in the that make up the coral live. Now, we're going to go back to those zooxanthellae, if we're able to. And there we go, perfect. So again, I'm going to grab that coral piece and I'm actually going to hold it with me so we can kind of see what an empty coral looks like, right? So when we see coral like this, that's white and hard and rigid and out of the water, that means nobody's home, right? None of these zooxanthellae right behind me are home. So this is just kind of like a skeleton, right? And but when they're when there's we have some friends home, we can kind of think of it like a big apartment complex, right? Everybody lives in their own little area. So right behind me, this isn't just one animal, this is a whole bunch of smaller animals living together, right? So let's step to the side and let's see if we could go back to our coral exhibit again. Fantastic. Now, I know we're seeing a lot of different colors on our coral. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the animals that live around them, right? So we're seeing a lot of these colorful fish. Now, why would the fish be colorful? Right, because the coral is colorful. And it kind of serves like a form of camouflage for them in this environment, right? If I'm a, let's say, a little brown fish, and I'm among these bright and beautiful, vibrant corals, I'm going to be really easy to spot, right? But maybe for, let's see if he'll come back on. I know we have our little parrotfish. That there he is. See our parrotfish? He's going to swim right behind my head. He's going to go off screen, but you can see all those beautiful colors. Oh, there's a perfect picture. So you can see a whole bunch of different colors on there, right? How many colors do you see? Let's see if we see the same amount. I'm going to count in my head. All right. How many did you see? I counted at least 4 colors. Now, that's just from the image alone, but sometimes images don't always capture all our animals in their glory, right? So, with all those vibrant colors, when you have so many colors, you kind of blend in to this really vibrant background, right? Now, we do have some gray rocks, but imagine it's just full of coral. That parrotfish is going to blend in really well. Now, funny thing about the parrotfish is that they serve multiple purposes in this environment. So one, they blend in really well to the coral, but they actually have something very funny about them. Oh, there he is again. Let's go back to that picture. Oh, perfect. What do you notice? Look at that mouth. He's kind of got little teeth and almost like a beak, right? So the funny thing about, I'm going to move to the side so we could get a perfect look at that beautiful smile. Isn't that the best smile you've ever seen? Now, can you guess why they're called parrotfish? Other than their vibrant colors? Yeah, because they kind of have like a beak. Exactly. So that's why we call them parrotfish, because they kind of have like a beak like mouth. Now, that's really important adaptation for them. And if you don't know what an adaptation is, that is something that an animal has, whether it's part of their body. Um, there it is. There's our word adaptation. That is something an animal uses on their body to help them survive in their environment. Now, we're going to talk about this very special adaptation on our parrotfish. We'll see if he comes back on screen. I know we also have a really big one sometimes that'll pop up, but right now our little one's coming in and out. The funny thing about parrotfish is that they use that beak on the coral. Because what they'll do is they'll kind of bite or scrape against the coral. I'm going to bring back my coral structure right over here. Right? Notice the color. Notice how when there's no animals here, it's white. So what happens with the parrotfish is it's got that strong beak. It's going to use that strong beak to kind of munch on some coral. Now, if it's munching on some coral, it's got to digest it, right? And what happens if it digests it? It might poop out white sand. Exactly. So you might notice right below my parrotfish, there's all this white sand. If you were to go to a beach in a tropical region, think the Philippines, you might notice some white sand beaches. That is because there are coral reefs nearby. That's how we know there's coral, because we'll see these white sands when the zooxanthellae leave the home, and a coral piece might break off, or the waves might tumble down, or our lovely friend the parrotfish might munch on some coral and poop out that white sand that ends up on our beaches or on the ocean floor. So you can take the parrotfish for all those beautiful white sand beaches, right? As well as our coral. That is what's giving it that color. Okay, I'm gonna move to the side. Let's see. Do you notice all the different structures of the coral? Do they all look the same? No, right? There's some right over here. I'm probably going to block it if I get fully in view, but you can see one that's a bit rounder, right? Some that look a bit more like branches. And even one like the one I pulled out that has a bit more grooves, like the pink one right over here. It's a bit flatter, a little bumpy still, but it's not quite like the one right next to it that has these branches. So, corals also, like fish, the fish around them, are all very different from each other as well. Now, they share a lot of similarities, but they still look different, right? So let's see, how many different structures can you see? How many different shapes? I'm going to give us a minute. See what we notice. Let's see. I'm going to see how many I can count right here. So I know there's the one right behind me. This is one. That's one. This one kind of looks similar, so I don't know if I'm going to count that one. Let's see. I have two. We have these kind of shelf-like ones, right? This pink one right over here, if we were to kind of look at it from the side as well, it would kind of have that like shelf-like structure. And then we have three. We have these branching ones. Now, there are also some right behind me. I'm going to step to the side. You might notice some that look a bit more wavy. So I'm going to count that as four. And some that even look like tubes. Five. So, from what I can see, and maybe you can see more than me, I can count at least five different coral structures. All right. So that's long coral. We did talk a little bit about our parrotfish, but what other animals might live in coral reefs? Can you think of any? Ooh. What do we notice about these fish behind me? Yeah, those bright colors again. So I see a yellow tang right up there. I see a few other fish as well. So, a lot of fish, right? We see a lot of fish living in our coral reefs, right? We talked about the parrotfish a bit. And we're kind of seeing all these different colored fish right behind me, very vibrant. And do they all have the same shape as well? Or are their shapes a little different? Let me step to the side. I know our yellow tang right over here. Let me see if I can catch up to him. There he is. He's definitely shaped different than my friend that's coming right up to the camera, right? All right, let's see. Let's keep watching. Quite seeing here. Let's see if Tiffany could find him. Might be somewhere else. Let's see. Whoa. What's behind me? Do we know this fish? What is it? A clownfish. Exactly. So another resident of our coral reefs are going to be our lovely and cute clownfish. Now you might notice something very interesting about this photo. What are the clownfish in? Do you remember how I had mentioned how coral related to other animals? Or very closely related? Do you know what kind of animal a clownfish lives in? Yeah, an anemone. And it has that kind of plant-like structure again. Now you can think of anemones kind of like really big zooxanthellae that we see in our corals. Very similar, right? They are very close cousins. And living in our anemones are going to be our clownfish. Now, let's step to the side. What colors do we notice on our clownfish? Is it gray? No, huh? That's kind of silly. We could definitely see two or three colors, right? We see a very, very vibrant orange and a very vibrant white stripe right through their bodies. Oh my goodness. We can also see some black around them as well, right? But again, in that same kind of idea, like all our other fish that live in the coral reefs, they're going to be a very bright color. And they're going to live in our anemones. So, like corals, anemones have stingers in a sense. They're kind of like these little tiny harpoons that try to inject venom, and those are called nematocysts. Now, you might have touched an anemone. I've touched plenty, and we even have some here at the aquarium to touch. And we don't exactly get stung, right? We might feel like nothing, or they might feel a little sticky. That's because our skin is really thick. So, for the most part, we won't feel that stinging sensation we might from, like, let's say, a sea nettle jelly. But our clownfish right here also kind of has a very special adaptation that allows it to live in this anemone because this anemone stingers will work for the most part against other small fish. But it doesn't affect our clownfish. How could that be? What are some things that the clownfish might have that allow it to live in the anemone? Maybe the anemone's choosing not to sting it. No, that can't be it. I don't think the anemones quite know. Actually, there's one really special adaptation they have, and that is actually covering their entire body. It is a mucus layer all across their body, so we can't really see it too well. We can see how well nestled our clownfish are inside the anemone. And that's because they have a special layer around them, kind of like a protective coating, that allows them to hang out inside the anemone. And if they're living in the anemone, does that mean other animals can get to them? No. It actually works out really well for the clownfish because it's also like a protection, right? They're kind of living in like a little wiggly, squishy, stinging shield almost. So they not only get this lovely and spacious home, but they are also protected from other fish and maybe even sharks who might try to come near, right? So let's see. We talked about our clownfish and our parrotfish. What other animals can you think of that live in the coral reef? Oh, this is perfect. So, right now, oh, and my friend I was going to talk about just came on screen. So right now we are in Shark Lagoon, which is here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, and it is also going to be a tropical environment because you'll see again some very vibrant colored corals. Now, I know my friend got very close and he's swimming right back there. Do you see that fish back there? That shark? Do you know what it is? Shout it out for me if you know what it is. Oh, there it is again. Yeah, so that is a zebra shark. Does it look like a zebra? No, not quite, huh? There's a very funny reason for that, and we'll get into that for a moment. But I'm going to step to the side. Let's make some observations on this friend right here. What do you notice about its shape, about its patterns, and even its color? So I'm going to take a few moments. Is a zebra shark brightly colored like our fish? No, not really. Not at all, actually. It's actually kind of those gray colors I was kind of mentioning before. So, our zebra shark isn't going to worry too much about blending in with the coral because she's going to be too big to live among the coral, right? She might find a nice sandy spot instead. So being duller might actually help her out a bit more. Now, what else do you notice? Are you noticing this pattern? So I know I had mentioned that she's a zebra shark, but she kind of has spots, almost like a cheetah or a leopard instead, right? Now that's actually because when zebra sharks are little babies, they look a bit more like zebras. But what our mistake was, scientists' mistake when they named him, was we thought that they were going to kind of keep those stripes as they got older. And then that didn't happen. They ended up losing those stripes and got these spots instead. So these are also known as I believe it's Indo-Pacific leopard sharks. Because there's also leopard sharks, but those are going to be in our colder waters and we won't see them. Now, zebra sharks will typically be, you can kind of see those stripes right here actually. See them a little bit following. I see some white stripes. So, a bit more zebra-like. As they get older, they kind of lose those stripes, right? Now, these animals live, again, in warmer waters. Think off of the Pacific coast of Indonesia. What else do you notice about my leopard shark? You can kind of see a little bit right here. See that tail? Does that look like other shark tails? I wonder if I have another shark here somewhere. Let me see. I have this friend right here to compare. I'm going to pull out my friend right here. And he's got that typical shark tail that we're used to. I twisted it up a little bit. My bad. Let's see. He's a little big, so I got to make sure he's on here. Does that look similar? Ooh, actually, let's talk about your zebra babies again. Perfect. See? Now this is a lot more obvious about those zebra stripes, right? You can see very clearly those white stripes on a darker body. So when we saw these little babies, we were like, well, this is going to be a zebra shark because we don't have zebra sharks yet. And it looks like a zebra shark. But then you can kind of see those spots, which should have given us a hint at what we're going to get later, right? And then they eventually grow up. I also have a zebra shark right here where they have more of those spots. And this very, very interesting tail. Now, I wonder if we could go back to Shark Lagoon, see if we could catch our zebra shark friend swimming around. But we're going to notice some things, and I have it right here so we can kind of see a bit closer. Do you notice something else on my zebra shark? Do you notice these little whiskers? I don't know if we'll be able to get a good look. Oh, here we go. This will show us even better. So let's take a minute. They're a little hard to see, but right there, right at the mouth, you can kind of see these little whiskers. Now, what else are you noticing about my zebra shark right here? Is she up above in the open water? Or is she down below in the sand? Yeah, she's going to be a lot lower in the sand, and that is because she's going to be using these whiskers, these barbels, to help her look around in the sand. There she goes again. Now, the funny thing about zebra sharks is they don't care too much about hanging out in the open water. They prefer to stay down at the sand where they could find their food. They prefer more crunchier food and smaller fish. So they're going to hang out a little lower, right? Now, thinking of sharks, we probably think of big teeth, right? Totally. I think of big teeth when I think of um, regular sharks. But you can kind of see that little mouth right there that passed right behind me. In that tiny, tiny little mouth, you're going to find tiny, tiny little teeth. And that is because our zebra sharks don't focus on big fish or maybe bigger mammals, right? They're going to actually prefer to eat crustaceans, right? Hard shelled animals or smaller fish. So their teeth are going to be a lot smaller because that's what they focus on. And again, they're going to be looking in the sand with those barbels. And they have another really fun adaptation. I don't think we'll be able to see it, but you might have known already that sharks, for the most part, have to keep swimming to breathe, right? Not our zebra shark. They actually have a very special adaptation called spiracles, which are these kind of like muscles on the side of their head, kind of look like holes. And that will allow them to rest on the ground. So we can see our ray hanging out down here, and our zebra sharks are actually very active right now. So I don't think we'll be able to see them sleeping on the ground. But when they do sleep, they'll hang out on the bottom, laying on that white sand, because they have that special adaptation that allows them to push water through their gills so that they can breathe without having to move. All right, so we're still technically in a coral reef right here. What other animals do you notice? Let's step aside. Yeah. Oh, yeah, did you see? I was hoping you probably saw him. We'll see if they comes back. Right over there. Do you see my friend right here? You probably noticed, and you're probably yelling it out at me while I was talking about the zebra shark, but you probably saw our sea turtle. Yeah, sea turtles also live in coral reefs. Check out this cutie. Look at that. Now, in this picture, it's actually a really good picture because you can kind of see how, even though our sea turtle isn't as brightly colored as our fish, that they kind of still blend in really well. Now, what else do we notice on the sea turtle? Yeah. Ooh, let's watch this video. Tell me what you notice. Here comes our sea turtle. Now, this is our tropical exhibit here at the aquarium. What are some things you notice? Ooh, what's going on here? Our sea turtle's eating. Yeah. So, did you notice our sea turtle's mouth? Did it look like my zebra shark's mouth? No. Kind of has, again, a bit more of a beak-like structure, right? And we're going to start wrapping up. But before I do, you might have noticed this number one thing that all our sea turtles have, right? It's that shell. And that is a big help for our sea turtles is their shell, because they use that to do what? To just have a nice shell and show off to all the other coral reef fish? No, it actually has a purpose. It's for protection. It's like a built-in shield right in their back so that it could protect them against sharks that might enjoy a yummy turtle snack, right? And if I'm a shark, my teeth aren't going to get through a shell. So sea turtles, sometimes what they'll do is they'll kind of turn their back to their predator coming at them. And a smart shark will be deter to know, oh, that's a shell. I'm going to turn away and I'm going to find somebody who's not going to try to block me from eating them, right? Maybe I'll go for a fish, right? Again, all those fish and all our animals. All right. Well, it is now 10:30, and that is all the time we have today for our Aquarium Online Academy. Again, if you have any questions, you can email them at live@lbaop.org. But thank you all for joining me as we got to explore our coral reefs, talk about corals, and even all the animals that hang out in that environment. Well, see you on the next time.